friends, it's Crystal, your Leo best friend. Welcome back. I am so happy to be here. If you have been following along and keeping up with me, then you know that I took a break last week. And thank you so much for being understanding. And also, I hope that you took that as a message for yourself to give yourself a break as well. If you are new here, welcome. So thankful to have you here. My name is Crystal. I am your Leo best friend, and I am making videos specifically how to heal your inner child. And I just want to add in here as well for everybody watching that not only is this to heal your inner child, but it really is to heal any traumatic experience that you have had in your life, because this isn't just at childhood. This continues on to your teen years, this continues along to your adult years. I'm just here to show you guys how I found out that we are constantly living in this cycle until we heal our past. But as I mentioned, I am making weekly videos of how to heal trauma, how to heal your inner child, whatever you want to call it. I left you guys at step number 8, and this week I want to go into step number 9. To go into step number 9, I want to give a little bit of history about my background. I grew up in a Hispanic household, and I know that this is very, very common in many, many Hispanic households to not talk about emotions, to not talk about feelings, to not talk about therapy, not talk about mental health. The reason that I am mentioning this is because this brought me to the realization, because I didn't grow up with talking about my feelings. I was holding in all my emotions in this small, I'm short, guys, so I was holding all those emotions in this little small body that God gave me, and I wasn't able to process them because I didn't know how. And the reason that I mention that is because I want to go into the next step, which is step number 9, to talk about triggers. So I know I've mentioned triggers in my previous videos, and so if you know what a trigger is, amazing. If you don't, then you are going to learn today. A trigger is a stimulation that happens when we experience an event that gives us a memory of a traumatic experience. The best way that I can explain to you guys why this happens is because of our brain and our body are two separate systems. And when we experience a trigger, our body sends a message to our brain, and that part of the brain is called the amygdala. If have experienced trauma in your past, then your amygdala is what is keeping you safe, because our brain and our body are designed to keep us alive and keep us safe. And so if you have these traumatic experiences that you didn't know how to properly process them or properly feel them, then you are constantly holding in emotions in your body and constantly repeating these cycles in your life of staying in the past. Of that part of our brain that is called the amygdala that gets triggered and gets that response from our body that there is fear or that there is certain things that are going on around us, that is where I want to go into the next section that I like to call the 4 Fs. With the 4 Fs, this is what happens when we go into stress, when we experience a trigger, when we experience anxiety, when we experience certain emotions. We get put into this state, into one of these 4 states. The 4 Fs are fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And I'm going to go into naming examples for you guys. The best way that I can put all of this is it is all interconnected. Our body, our brain, everything is all a sum of it. And it all starts with our emotions. If we don't know how to properly process our emotions, then these triggers are going to continue happening until we can put the work in and really process this. This is why you see yourself stuck in certain situations. This is why you say you live a bad life. This is why, is because we don't know how to process these emotions properly to be able to move forward. One of the things that I have learned is that 70% of us don't feel. I told you guys about the percentage of people that will not admit that they have childhood trauma. And so this week, another statistic means they are just in robot mode, not feeling any of their emotions, just continuing to stay in this repeated cycle of living in fight, flight, or freeze. So to go into the 4 Fs, I'm going to give you guys an example of what it is to go into one of the 4 Fs when you experience a trigger. And the reason that I am doing this is to give you guys the awareness of what happens to your body, because we do this unconsciously. Learn more about the consciousness and unconsciousness of us. I posted an Instagram post about the two differences of both of them. So if you want to learn about it, go check it out. These 4 Fs is what we do unconsciously, so we have no idea that we're doing it. And so the reason that I want to give you guys an example is so that you guys can see what happens when we really do experience a trigger and why it is so important to work through this work. So the first F is fight. To experience a trigger, your brain automatically thinks fear. That fear is going to put your body into fight. And just think about like a fight, literally a fight. Your brain is in fight mode. So these are examples of what happens. The first one is we get aggressive. The second is that's when the narcissistic behavior happens. The third is when we get into the wanting to control, the power. This also puts us in the bully mode. This is when you start making fun of people. This is when you start being that bully because you are in fear. You are getting attacked. Your brain thinks that you are getting attacked. So what does a bully do? If you remember in school, a bully is fighting because he probably got hurt. Favorite quote to say and that I've read is hurt people hurt people. So that bully is just reflecting what hurt he has. And so that part of us is that bully that is really just in fear, wanting to be heard and wanting to be okay. The next F is flight. So think of a flight like an airplane flight. Literally, you run. You want to run. Examples of this is you become a workaholic. And why do you become a workaholic? Because you are trying to run away from those emotions and not feel them. Because again, you probably don't know how, and that's okay. I didn't know how. When we are in flight, we are more prone to addictive behaviors. I drink alcohol to run away from my problems. They were still there after I was done drinking, and so that became an addictive behavior. Get into that flight mode is to go and drink alcohol. The other thing that happens when we are in flight is we are living inside of our head. That is when the overthinking starts happening. And that overthinking, I want to add in here, is not you. You don't have to listen to that part of your brain that is overthinking. When you start to learn to separate the two, it does get easier. So I wanted to add that in there, and there will be more about that in future videos. The next F is freeze. This is where you're just stuck. Think of it as like a shock. You experienced a trigger or you're experiencing a trauma and you stay stuck. You don't know what to do. This is when we get lost in our minds. This is when the disassociation happens. When you're driving and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? That is dissociation, to that freeze mode, because you're thinking about traumatic experiences. You're overthinking about trauma. You're overthinking about stress. So that puts your body into that freeze state. The thing that, how I mentioned, the other thing that does happen when we are in freeze is you become empty and you become numb. Start suppressing all those emotions because we don't know how to properly process them. So we start numbing ourselves so that we don't feel. And the last F, the fourth F, is fun. This is when codependency starts happening. This is when the inability to stand up for ourselves. When you have the fear of upsetting others. This is when you're not wanting to stand up for yourself or not wanting to say something because you're afraid of hurting others. This is when the people pleasing starts happening. So, another thing that happens when we are in fawn is we are looking to others to make decisions for us. It's really hard to make decisions for ourselves because we don't want to step into that unknown, because if someone makes that choice for us, then we have someone to blame of, hey, no, you made that choice for me. But no, we make our own choices. And the more that you are in that fawn state and that people pleasing and expecting someone to make decisions for you, you're not going to learn. And we're all really here to learn. Go along with the 4Fs, I want to give you guys a quick story time of what happened to me this weekend and really explain and express how and what I experienced in that moment, and also show you guys visualize of how it looks to be in those 4Fs. So this week I was grocery shopping, me and my boyfriend were grocery shopping, and all of a sudden I hear there's two couples walking along. Like, they were far away from me, guys, but they were there at the store in the same section. And I just hear people start arguing. And I was like, what? Like, me just like, you get curious. And so I start to look over and I see people like bickering, but I see them more like playful, is how I saw it. And so I ignored it and I went back to trying to find the cheese that I wanted. And as I'm there, I start hearing it go louder. But this time swearing started being involved, and I was like, "Oh crap, like this is not just little playful bickering. This is an actual fight." And these people are sitting there like swearing at each other, telling each other every name in the book, telling each other that they're going to beat each other up. Like, it was just a really, really hectic scene. And they started fighting. And my first response was, oh, let me grab my phone. But as I grabbed my phone and I'm recording, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I recording? And then I stopped. As I stopped, I started noticing, with doing all this work, I've been able to get more connected with my body. And because of that, I started noticing that I was clenching and holding certain areas in my body. And not only that, but I was not breathing. And because of that scenario that happened, I got triggered. And to better explain that is, so again, to better explain it to you guys, this event is going on, and my body sent a signal of a fight, and it went up to my amygdala, and my amygdala is like, oh my god, fighting, oh my god, fear, 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 fear. And so that part of my brain sent a signal to my body and was like, we gotta get out of here, we gotta leave because there's a fight. So to go into what one of the 4Fs, in that moment I went into freeze. I was feeling numb. I was like, what is going on? Am I going to get involved into this? There it is going in my head. I'm like, "Oh my god, I was recording. Are they going to notice that I was recording and come tell me something?" There it is in my head. Then after, I was like, "Crystal, you're overthinking." And then I was like, "Okay." So I like paused, and I noticed my body that I was clenching, like I was holding certain parts of my body. And I was like, relax. I told myself, just relax. In that moment that I did that, I stopped holding my body, I stopped clenching it. After that, I was like, Crystal, you're not breathing. And then I was like, I took a deep breath. After that, I was like, okay, I need some like grounding because I just froze. I just froze there. Then after that, I was like, okay, they have it everywhere, and I'll show it here. Oh, you can't see it, but I have the 5 grounding techniques. So the first one is like I started naming every single thing that I see, and picture this, guys, there's just a bunch of cheese in front of me. So I was like, well, where do I started naming the names of the cheeses. So I started saying cheddar, pepper jack, Kobe jack, whatever. I started naming them. And then I was like, okay, what's 4 things that I can feel? So I started feeling the bags in front of me. I started feeling my shirt. I started feeling my hair. After that, I was like, okay, what are 3 things that I hear? And then I was like, okay, I hear me touching the bags. And then I went back to the fight. I was like, oh, I hear the fight. And then I was like, oh, a fight. And that's when I went back and I got triggered again, guys. That is when I was like, okay, I need to like, where is this at? What am I feeling at this moment? And I was like, I feel fear. I am scared. And then with that, it triggered that memory inside of me of remembering fights when I was a little girl. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, Crystal, close your eyes and just take a deep breath. That's the first time you experience that memory. Where is it in your body that you feel this emotion? And so there I am. This fight is like breaking loose over here. And I'm just over here turned to the cheese. And guys, I know this sounds like it took a long time, but it was really, really quick that I did this. I'm just giving you guys more of like an explanation of what I did. It happened to be natural that I went into all this, but I'm giving you guys more of the explanation because I want to walk you guys through in case this happens to you guys. So in that moment, I'm like, okay, where in my body do I feel it? I felt it a lot in my lower part of my belly. And so I was like, okay, just breathe, picture the breath going into your body. And so in that moment, I took a deep breath and I just was like picturing that breath go into the lower part of my belly. And then I'm like, okay, when was the first time that you remember experiencing this? And again, it took me back childhood of seeing fighting. And then all I told myself was, Crystal, you are safe. You are not in that situation. This has to do with other people. You are safe. You are here. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm good. And then, then I'm watching the fight and then like whatever happened. The reason that I'm telling you guys this story is because I want you guys to see how I was able to process that and really to show you guys how fast your body can go into a trigger. And the fact that I was able to work through that should show you guys how this work really does work. Me before, I would have dissociated, I would have started just numbing myself, I would have kept holding my breath, I would have kept tightening my body. I wouldn't have known what to do with that experience that was happening right in front of me. And with doing the work of healing my inner child and doing all of this, I was able to naturally ground myself, do the 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste. Grounding yourself back to the present moment because, as I told you guys, when you experience that trigger, your mind takes you to the first time you experienced it. And so, really telling yourself that grounding, and then for me, like learning and telling myself, like, you're safe, this is not your fault. Whatever is happening in that scenario of these people fighting, it's not your fault. It's not you. You are safe. It has nothing to do with you. Hearing those things really helped me. And so, with that being said, guys, I want to introduce something that I created for you guys for this week or for whenever you want to do it. It's called a feelings tracker. So here I added a screenshot, guys, of what the feelings tracker is. And I'm gonna just walk you guys through it real quick. Here I did a what are emotions, an introduction of what it is, and then also I mentioned the 3-step process that we are going to be taking during this feelings tracker. We're going to identify and name the emotion we're feeling, feel where in our body it is stuck, and then also determine when the first time was that we ever experienced this certain emotion. I also went ahead and added an emotions wheel so that it makes it a lot easier for you to name your emotion. And now we're going to go into the 3-step process. So I went ahead and split it up into 7 days. And the first step is to look at the emotions wheel and identify which emotion you are feeling. And then step number 2 is ask where in my body do I feel this emotion. This is going to be a crucial step, guys, and I would recommend that you guys do it. And it's to take deep breaths. I even added a reminder in there because we all need it sometimes. And then step number 3 is ask, have I felt this emotion before? And what is my memory of this feeling? I went ahead and added the little boxes so you guys can jot down some notes. So the emotion would be step number 1, the body is step number 2, and then the memory would be step number 3. And then it just goes on to day number 2, day number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. And this part I added a rating. And it's just going to ask you quick questions that you are going to be able to answer from never, rarely, sometimes, always. And I did add in here a little side note to please be honest with yourself. This is your tracker. No one's going to read it besides you. And then after that, I went ahead and added a planning, just a little thing where you can commit to yourself and commit to each other of what we can do to keep going on in each step to really continue on in this journey. And I did add some examples if you need some help. After that, I made a checklist of what you can do to really help in each area, so emotional, physical, and inner child. This is probably my favorite part of it. I added a note section so if at any point you get stuck and want to jot down some notes, please use this space up. Then I just added a quick thank you and then a quick note of myself, and that is it, you guys. And if you guys have any questions, my is on all of the pages. My goal with this tracker is really so that we can start keeping track of our emotions and see where it is that we are continuing to stay stuck at. And I added my at and every single page in this so that if you have any questions or any concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. If at any moment this tracker is triggering to you, stop. I want to mention that there's 3 steps to the process. You don't have to do step number 3 if you're not ready to take that step. At least do step number 1 and step number 2. I think step number 3 is to dive in a lot deeper. You don't have to do it now. You can always come back. It's not mandatory to do any of it. You can do step number 1 if you just want to get started on naming your emotions. Then do step number 1 for a whole week. And then if you want to move on to step number 2, you can see where it is that in your body that you are feeling it. And in step number 3, you can do that the following week. So make it a 3-week thing that you can do. Just spread it out. You don't have to do it all in 1 week. I just recommend to do it this way if you want to. Again, this is your choice and it's up to you however you want to do it. Again, guys, if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me. This tracker is going to be available on my link tree. I linked it as a PDF and it's available, I believe it's available to download. If you have any issues downloading it from there, please send me Instagram DM with your email address and I will email you the link personally, just because I really want this really helped me. So I know that this will help you as well. I know that this episode was filled with a lot of information from triggers, from parts of your brain, from learning the 4 F's to keeping track of your emotions. But again, it all ties down to the one of keeping track. And so this is the next step in the healing, and step number 9 is to keep track of your emotions. And in keeping track of your emotions, you're going to start allowing yourself to feel, because at the end of the day, we are human and we are here to feel. We were meant to feel. And if you are part of that 70% that doesn't feel, then please do yourself the favor and do this tracker and start becoming more aware. I do want to add in here that I'm just going to be honest with you guys. At first, when I did this, it was so uncomfortable. I felt like this sick feeling in my stomach, and I just remember like I'm doing something different. And when you are doing something different, you are going to feel uncomfortable. So I posted it before, it gets to living in uncomfortable, because that's how you grow. And so, guys, just keep trying, keep betting on yourself, because you are the main person that you should be betting on. And so, guys, with that, I will end it here. I hope this all made sense to you guys, and I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this week's video. You guys missed me, how I missed you guys. Won't take it offensive if you guys didn't. And I would want to end with a quick prayer by saying, thank you, God, for bringing us together, bringing me back, and for blessing this space for us, and also blessing our tracker that we are about to do. And please bless this journey of us keeping track of our emotions. I love you, God. I love you guys. And as always, remember that every single day is a new opportunity to grow. And remember, invest in yourself. I love you guys, and I will be back next week as promised. Again, thank you so much for being here, and I send you guys all the love, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.